In this video, I'm going to show you how to implement a technique that will allow you to easily eliminate procrastination, maximize your focus, and triple your productivity so you can scale your agency or coaching business way faster with more clarity of mind and with way less stress. And so what is this technique? Well, it's a non-negotiable stop time for your work. Now, give me a second so I can unpack this for you. A big problem that a lot of my clients are dealing with when they come to work with me is that their productivity isn't very consistent. And by productivity, I mean getting the important work done. And, that's the work that's driving the business forward, generating new cash flow, and delivering exceptional results for your clients. They were essentially giving themselves all day long to work. They didn't really have any clear plan as to when exactly their work started and when it stopped. They might have had a general idea, especially maybe a general idea of when they wanted to wake up, when they wanted to go to bed, maybe even hit the gym, but they didn't have any concrete time constraints around their work. And this put them on the negative side of Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time that's available for completion. So your work is going to take as long as you allow it to, essentially. The more time you give for your work, well, the longer that your work is actually going to take. But for example, if you were only to give yourself until 6 p.m. sharp every single day to get your work done, then because of Parkinson's law, it's very likely that you would get most, if not all of your work done by 6 p.m. sharp. And this is just because your work will adapt to the time that you have available for it. And when my clients were not having any specific time constraints, their work was just taking a really long time. And this led into procrastination as well, because when you don't have clear, specific time constraints on your work, and you always have the option of working more, you always have the option of working late, and you don't have that clear cutoff point, then you don't really have a lot of incentive to embrace the discomfort, to get into an extremely focused state and, execute like you need to, because you can always tell yourself that, oh, I have more time, I can do it later, because it's true, right? But if that door is always open, then it's very likely that you're going to fall into procrastination. You're going to be less efficient with your work. You're not going to be getting things done, at the highest level of effectiveness, because you don't really have a lot of pressure. And well, if I don't get it done now, I can always just do it later. And it's easier to do it later than to force yourself to get the work done right now immediately. And so it would create that problem of procrastination and distraction. But at the same time, because they would work later and they would just kind of work all day long, they would start to get depleted, they would fatigue, they'd be tired. And science has proved this so many times that the longer that you try to be productive and getting things done, the less effective you actually become as time goes on. And just going back to Parkinson's law, it's just also going to make your work take so much longer because you don't have that pressure to perform. Even on the days where you do get a lot done, you're very efficient, you're very productive, what my clients would find is that it wouldn't be very predictable or consistent, because their days would just look differently on a daily basis or even just a weekly basis. And so if their daily structure is not very predictable, it becomes very hard to have your productivity be predictable as well, because there's just so many variables that can change on a daily basis. And just an important note, it's important to realize that hours don't actually equal outcomes. Like the most productive people that or that you've seen, like, I don't know, Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey or, Alex Hormozi, whatever, right? These really effective, highly productive people, they don't have more time than you do. They're just way more efficient than you currently are. And that's the distinction, right? It's how they use their time, not how much time they actually have, because everyone has the same amount of time. And you'll actually get way more done by forcing yourself to work less hours. Because if you compress the amount of time that you have to work, your work is going to adapt to fill this time. But if it's just open and you just have all the time in the world essentially to get your stuff done, and you always have the door open that, I can work late into the night if I need to, I can work weekends, and you just don't have those boundaries, well, you're going to slip into inefficiency, you're going to slip into procrastination, distraction, and you're just not going to be as effective as you could be and as you can be. So this is why I have them implement this non-negotiable stop time, because this stop time acts as a forcing function on their productivity and their efficiency. As soon as I have them implement the stop time, it becomes very, very clear what time they have to start work in order to get their stuff done, right? And when you create this tight box of when your work starts and ends, and it's clear and there's no drip over, when work is done, work is done. You immediately walk away. It doesn't mean 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes. Oh, let me finish up this task. It means that work is completely finished and you revisit it the next day. And so because of this, you know that you don't have an infinite amount of time to work. And so that immediately just dramatically reduces procrastination, because you know that you can't do it later. You know you don't have time, and it forces you to actually go over the threshold, embrace the discomfort to get into a state of focus, to get into a flow state and actually get the work done immediately, because you know you can't do it later. And when you compress the amount of time that you have to work, you're going to quickly realize that all the stuff you're doing right now and the way that you're working is actually not going to fit within this box. And what's going to happen is that this compressed amount of time is going to force you into a different mindset. You're going to be getting into a mindset of prioritization and leverage. Because in order to make this period of time that you've compressed for your work, to make it as effective and efficient as possible, you're going to have to very quickly start figuring out what is truly the most important work. And when you start thinking like this, you're quickly going to realize that a lot of the stuff that you were doing was just not important and probably just a downright distraction. Because chances are there's a lot of stuff that you're doing right now that is just not essential. It's not important. And you might be avoiding the most important work by focusing on the less important work. And when you have this time constraint, if you don't want to go broke and out of business, well, then you're going to have to make sure that it's getting your most important work done. You're going to have to make sure that this time is as effective as possible. And you'll have to problem solve your efficiency to figure out what's the most important, what can I eliminate, and then what tasks can I actually delegate to other people so that I can only focus on what's truly a priority, what moves the business forward, what actually generates new cash flow and gets exceptional results for my clients, because that's really the most important stuff if we really think about it. So instead of focusing on working more hours to get more done, you're going to be focusing on prioritizing to get more of the important stuff done in less time. Because as an entrepreneur, you don't get paid for how many hours you work, you get paid for the problems that you're solving and the stuff that you get done, the important stuff. And so when you have this limited amount of time, it increases your level of perceived importance, and you're going to quickly start filtering out the junk and focusing only on what's important. And the other aspect to this non-negotiable stop time, and what adds to the forcing function that increases your productivity, efficiency, focus, and dramatically reduces procrastination, is that pain will teach you to be more focused and efficient. Because if you get to the end of your workday, right? Like as soon as your stop time hits and you didn't get your most important work done, either because you were goofing off or, stuff came up, or you just weren't as efficient as you needed to be, and you get to the end of the workday and you didn't get it done. And because it's a hard cutoff, that means you don't have any for the day. You don't have more opportunity to keep working. That means that you're going to experience pain. But that's a good thing, because your brain learns to shift neurological connections and change behavior patterns through two main ways. Like there's other ways, but there's two main ways, and that's with pain or pleasure. And so when you get to the end of the day, you didn't get your stuff done and you experience that pain, you're going to have to take that with you to the next day. And when you take that pain with you to the next day, that pain acts as a teacher, and it makes sure and it incentivizes you and it motivates you and it drives you to make sure that the next day that you're operating within this time block, this compressed amount of time for your work, that you are more efficient, that you're more focused, that you're putting more energy into the priority actions and not making the mistakes that you made the day prior, because those mistakes are what led to the pain. And so when you have this framework and you allow the pain to teach you to be more efficient and focused, it becomes this upward spiral of efficiency and productivity. This might take place for the first few days, maybe even the first couple of weeks, depending on how your business is set up and where you're at and what you're dealing with. But as you problem solve your efficiency and you allow the pain to teach you to be more focused, to be more efficient, and to make less mistakes, you're actually going to get way more efficient because you'll have problem solved your workflow so that you're able to get the important stuff done quickly and effectively. So then you'll be getting to the end of your work days, you'll be hitting that stop time, and you'll have actually gotten your stuff done. And that's going to feel damn good. And that's going to positively reinforce you operating within this time constraint as effectively as possible. And so on the opposite end of your non-negotiable stop time is rest and recovery. And so this opportunity now that you have, this time, this space that the stop time gives you is going to allow you to recharge your focusing abilities. And then that's going to feed into just, making this time that you have for your work is just going to feed into making it more efficient and increasing your level of performance through the roof, because your focus is like a muscle. And, bodybuilders, for example, they're not in the gym training and working their muscles for like 16 hours a day. They wouldn't actually gain any muscle. They would probably experience very detrimental damages to their body, and all kinds of illness would come from that. They're really only in the gym training their muscles for like 2 hours, we'll say. Generally, right? Maybe less, maybe a bit more. But the rest of the day is just for recovery, which is proper nutrition and like resting their body, right? Making sure they're not doing more hard physical labor, right? Where they're working their muscles, they let them rest. And the same goes with your focus. If you're just constantly trying to exercise your focus muscle, right? Where before you didn't have any time constraints. And so you're just trying to force yourself to be focused for just, exaggerated amounts of time. Like you procrastinate and you keep working, you're working late, working weekends, and you just try to keep exercising this focus muscle. It's kind of like if a bodybuilder was trying to exercise their muscles, their physical muscles all day long, right? Like we can very clearly see how that would lead to negative consequences. But it is the same with focus. Like if you're just trying to be focused all the time, your focus is going to be very weak. It's not going to be super effective. You're going to be easily distracted. Your willpower is going to be low, and you're just going to be all around, more fatigued. And it's going to be extremely hard to perform at a high level with any degree of consistency on a weekly and monthly basis. And so when you have the stop time, it's going to force you to optimize this time that you have for your work, but then you have space to rest and recover your focus muscle so that the next day you're showing up with pure, sharp focus, and it allows you to work with more energy. You're able to step into your work with intensity. Instead of being like a dull knife, you're going to be able to just slice through your work like a lightsaber. And so the mindset to approach work with when you're having a stop time is to approach it like a sprinter instead of like you're running a marathon. Okay, when it's time to work, you have this sprint, intense, you put it out all in the field, but then as soon as the stop time is done, you just fully rest, fully work, fully rest. My clients also find this makes discipline so much easier because it creates a clear separation in your brain where your brain understands like, okay, this is for work, and then this time here is for relaxing and fun. And so it just makes it so much easier to be hyper-focused, disciplined, and productive during this period of time because after work, you can do whatever you want, essentially, right? Within reason. I wouldn't recommend doing activities during your recovery time that would be, detrimental, like doing cocaine or a bunch of crazy drugs or, just partying really hard, staying up all night. That time would be for rest and recovery, right? And you would do things, yes, that you enjoy, but that allow you to relax and recharge so that the next day you're stepping into your work at maximum focus and energy. And so you can just slice through your work. And so it's actually pretty crazy when I show this to my clients, like they're pretty astounded how just this one technique and this practice of stopping work at a specific time every single day, no matter what, how it can have just these immense benefits that actually make everything so much better. It makes your business better, but it also makes your life so much better as well. And the other thing is that I think the most important thing is that it creates true consistency, or at least gives you the opportunity to be extremely consistent at a high level of productivity. Because people or my clients especially, but I've seen this in, other people as well, is that they can be very productive, but then they kind of just burn out like a match, right? Like they'll be super productive for like a few days, maybe a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months, depending on how strong their willpower is. But then they kind of just fizzle out and they burn out, and then they're struggling to get themselves back into the flow, right? It takes them like a few days, a week, or it might even take them a month to get back to just a decent level of productivity. And so when you have the stop time, it gives you that opportunity to just be hyper consistent. You're able to, work extremely effectively, problem solve your efficiency, only focus on what's truly the most important. And you're doing that every single day. If you don't, the pain teaches you to get better at doing that. But then afterwards, you can relax, you can recharge, you can enjoy your life. And my clients find that this helps them scale their businesses faster while being able to enjoy the money they're making, right? Because it's like, well, what's the point of building this awesome business if you can't even enjoy the fruits of your labor? And so this allows you to go into hyper scaling mode while still being able to enjoy yourself and, not hate your life. And so just by simply having a non-negotiable work stop time that you respect on a daily basis, you're going to be able to dramatically, if not completely, eliminate your procrastination and eliminate distractions. But also, you're going to be able to truly maximize your focus through this perceived level of importance. You're only going to be placing your attention and your energy on what is truly important. And that is going to triple your productivity so easily. Because again, productivity is about getting the important stuff done. It's not how many hours you're spending. It's not, anything like that other than getting the important work done. So after about a few weeks to a month of respecting your stop time, problem solving your efficiency, you're going to find that you're going to see the largest gains in your productivity, efficiency, and discipline that you've ever seen. And you're going to be able to make progress in your business way, way faster than you were previously. But if you want to implement this for yourself, what I generally recommend is starting with giving yourself about 6 to 10 hours to work every day. And this will dictate when you start and when you stop. Now, the most important part here is that you actually stick to this time. If you don't stick to the stop time, well, nothing that I said is actually going to apply to you, and you're not going to experience it. So you have to pick a time that you will respect, not what you think you should do, not based on what other people do, but based on what you will actually stick to. That's the most important part. Okay. And so based on that stop time, you want to give yourself about 6 to 10 hours. I've had clients that were only working 5 hours per day, and they were able to dramatically increase their overall productivity because of that, because they were only focusing on what was truly the most important. But if you don't think that you can get all your work done right now in only 5 hours, well, start with 10, not any more than that, because that just defeats the purpose. Start with 10. Honestly, less is more. And if you give yourself less time than you think you need, it's going to force you to get into a higher level of productivity. You're going to be forced to increase your efficiency much faster than if you kind of play it safe and comfortable. But again, the important part is that you actually stick to it. And then once you get comfortable with it, right, you problem solve your efficiency for this compressed amount of time that you set for yourself, and you have a good practice and you're consistent with it, then you can practice setting it earlier and reducing and compressing your time further. So you start with 10 hours, then, maybe after a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, you can set it back to 8 hours, and then 6. And what you'll find is that as you compress your time more and more, your efficiency and your productivity just increases, and it shoots through the roof, and it forces you to really get creative and problem solve how to grow your business as effectively as possible. And you're going to be eliminating a ton of waste, but you're also going to be delegating a lot of work that maybe you think only you can do, but you'll find that as you compress your time, it's going to force you into a way higher level of operation. And I promise, give this a try. Seriously, your productivity and your bank account will thank you. But that's it for me today. If you want to learn more about how I help online coaches and agency owners unlock consistent peak performance so they can get their business to that next level in record time, then check out the main video on my channel. It's like a super in-depth breakdown of the exact performance system I help my clients implement for themselves. I mean, you're just going through the video, you're gonna get a ton of value. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But either way, I hope you got a ton of value from this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.